Right, into Japan, Tuesday the 25th of July. Everybody's working from home. They're hammering the streams. Breakfast with the Monster. God knows what time it's going to be when poor old Matty will be getting up to watch this one. Not really much on the undercard, Matty, but we'll go on to Robeisy Ramirez. First of all, making the first defense of his WBO World Featherweight title against Satoshi Shimizu. Satoshi, if I am correct, was the pseudonym of the originator of Bitcoin. So perhaps Bitcoin Rodney could be ringside for this Robeisy Ramirez performance. If he were to be, Matty, what would he be looking out for from Robeisy?
Well, you know what? I mean, if he is the inventor of Bitcoin, then he's a fighter that's going in there with nothing to lose, right? He already has it all, so he'll swing for the fences. I haven't seen him prior. Robeisy picking off the title in the fight against Isaac Dogbe, and obviously a deserved winner in that fight, but didn't necessarily impress in what we know he has. And it'll be curious to see if he goes the Guillermo Rigondeaux kind of route in what he's doing, or if he is a little bit more flashier, a little punchier. So we'll see what happens. I'll tell you what, though, these Japanese fighters, rarely are you going to run into one who's just going to let you sit there and quietly and safely box off the back foot. So I imagine that Satoshi will be in his face at times, and it will give him the opportunity for stoppage potentially. But it also could be another cold moment for him when it comes to remembering what it's like to be in the professional game and not in the amateurs.
Yeah, completely agree. We're going to move on from that one onto the main event as swiftly as we can. The Ariake Arena, Tokyo, Japan, USA showing it on ESPN Plus. I imagine Sky will be showing it as well. WBC and WBO World Super Bantamweight titles on the line. Stephen Fulton's 21-0. Naoya Inoue is 24-0. Andy, what is Fulton bringing to the table that can trouble the monster? Or to look at it another way, what things does he do better than Inoue for you?
Well, he's a good all-rounder, I think, in terms of his discipline. He's a good Philly fighter. He can be aggressive when he wants to be, but at the same time as well, as when you look at that Figueroa fight, I don't think if he was to fight Inoue the same style, I think he could come into some problems. One thing that I'm interested to see is the weigh-in. I want to see the size difference, because obviously Inoue is the one coming up. I want to see how he's. I know it's only, what is it, £4, £5 difference. So I just want to see what that kind of entails. I think he will. He's definitely a better boxer, I think, as well. And I think he works better off the back foot as well, Fulton, than what Inoue can. Inoue, I think, when he gets caught going backwards, he can take shots, especially down the middle. He hasn't really got a lot of great head movement. I think he can be a bit kind of flat-footed as well. So I'm slightly edging towards Fulton in this fight, to be fair. But again, with the judges and that, I think Inoue with his power might make it interesting down the stretch. I'm kind of talking my way out of it, but I'm going to stick with Fulton on decision. As to other things that he does well, was I think he says he's got a better defence. He can fight off the back foot, as I say. He can definitely fight aggressively if he wants to. But I also think he's got better footwork and he's got a better defence than Inoue. So the difference, the X factor, obviously, is the power. That's the main thing. If Inoue can start targeting the body, slowing down the feet, because we all know man doesn't live by his head; he lives by his body organs. So if you start hurting those kidneys and the liver and that type of thing, just slowing them down a little bit, I think potentially Inoue could get to him late. But I just think with the Philly experience and his all round the kind of like general boxing IQ, I think Fulton has got more than enough about him to basically hold when he's got to. I think he might be the stronger man on the night or the day of the fight, just purely because it's his weight class and we just don't know what Inoue's like coming up. And again, as I say, if he's able to take the power, I think that is enough for me to suggest that Fulton has got enough in his locker to then pull it out down the stretch and win a close, but as Tommy would say, a competitive, clear decision. So I'm going to go like a kind of 115-ish, 116, 112, 115, 113 type card.
Regarding the cards, Andy, you mentioned the judges there. The judges are, in fact, Canada's Richard Bluine, who I've actually never heard of, Italy's Guido Cavieri, who I remember as a referee back from the European title days, and Spain's Manuel Palomo. The referee is Hector Afu. You might remember him, Andy, when we done the live pod. between Jake Paul and Tommy Fury. He was the
Right.
kind of fussy, over-officious referee on display there, as it happens.
Well, let's hope he's no fool a drink then on the day of this fight, and just let the guys get on with it, you know. So yeah, we don't need a fussy referee. We certainly need experienced judges. No chicane. But look what happened last night. It's like every other couple of weeks we're talking about some either dodgy official, referee, or judges, or some shit going down. You know, dodgy sanctioning bodies, sanctioning fights, or no stripping titles quick enough, that type of thing. Just give us what we want. We've got 2 great fights to look forward to next week. Let's hope each of them deliver. Don't need any bullshit in either of them either. So just let the fighters fight. And if it comes down to it, let's hopefully both end in a knockout so we don't have to worry about the judges in the end, you know.
Yep. Sure, the boys in the chat are having a chat there about this particular fight. Give us your predictions, Fulton versus Inoue, so we can come back next week and gloat or cry. Give us your predictions, Fulton versus Inoue in the chat. Inoue and close points, maybe a split decision, says Matt Butters. Danny Young says, I think Inoue will get the hooks to the body going early. What else have we got? James G says, I think Inoue wins, but I'm not sure with the size. This is surely his limit. Joe Kennedy's there, head of the prediction league. Shout out to him. He says, think Fulton will cause lots of issues early, but expect Inoue to find his range eventually. Yeah, that's where I'm kind of looking at as well. Captain Casual, that's Damo. Inoue, contentious points decision. That's what I said last week as well. But I can make as many predictions as I want. You know what I'm like, boys. I say one thing in here, put another thing on the prediction league. I just do what I want, Ames. Tell me your prediction then. What's going on here? Fulton's the bigger man, but what impact will that size have on an opponent who started out his career a bit full stone lighter? Is Fulton going to use that size, that strength to bully him? This is a guy who sat in the pocket with Brandon Figueroa. He's going to be big on the night, Fulton.
First of all, I just want to have a word with the chat when we've got 2 serious fights coming up this weekend, and these boys want to talk about the social media influencers fighting in the chat and what's going on here. But yeah, no, look, I appreciate the size being a big factor, but I think one of the big factors that's kind of coming out right now in the fight week is the issue of the hand wraps, Steve. Like, you'll always kind of wonder, like, this freakish power and where it comes from, and if it's legitimate, if it, fighters are born with it, which I think fighters generally sometimes are if they're trained for it, and what Inoue kind of has been blessed with here, or whether there's something more to it. And if I was reading what I was reading right over the week heading into this fight, what Fulton's camp have been complaining about the hand wraps and how they're done over in under the Japanese kind of boxing commission rules, and looking to kind of maybe protest that. It's an interesting kind of tack to take, whether it's just mind games or just kind of putting their kind of stance on or putting their mark on the fight. You would have thought something like this would have come out when Butler went over to Japan and fought Inoue, because Joe Gallagher is long on the tooth. He would have sussed anything like that going on and would have made a complaint, or at least spoken about that about that after the fact if he found something unfair or different to what he usually kind of faces, or what his fighters usually face in Britain or abroad, or wherever he's in under any jurisdiction he's fought before. So whether there's anything to that, we'll find out. I don't know what the actual Japanese, commission rules are in terms of stacking, but
Stitch Duran said it was bullshit. I think he interviewed last night saying it was a pile of nonsense. But who knows? I've seen some dodgy hand wraps. I remember Oscar getting some kind of like binding done on his hands because he's got kind of like dodgy knuckles, things like that. But you would think Joe G, he'd be on top of that, as you say. He would be on top of Oi, that type of thing. But some commissions are different. But again, are they even qualified? Some of these commissions, they even pass judgment on some of these hand wraps. So that is the key thing.
It is a fair position to take, though. Bradley was explaining it, and it basically gives you another full layer on there, and you have to consider the idea, like, we talk about, the difference between 8 and 10 ounce gloves in some fights. Well, how many ounces are you adding to your hands when you're taping and gauzing again?
He might be up to super featherweight by the time he's wrapped his hands.
I'm fucking telling you. But it's a fair position to take, and yeah, it might be a little bit of head games, but it's something to look at. I don't think Inoue is a cheater. I wouldn't say that whatsoever. The Vegas commission, when he fought over here, apparently signed off on it too, and that's the way that he wraps his hands. But it is something that is, if it's technically not allowed, well, now that somebody's noticing it, they should pull the plug on it. But we'll see what happens.
I think Ames Bradley mentioned it, but he or was it Bernardo Asuna was making the distinction between the single stacking, which was done before, and this is maybe double stacking, which is where the issue lies.
Yeah, no, that's from my knowledge is what it is, and that can give the fighters edge in a fight, especially someone like Inoue, who's he's been a destructive force throughout his fights. We'll soon find out whether the power is legitimate or not. If he's suddenly picked up on it in the fight week and he's not allowed to do it, and then this power or feigned power goes and Fulton just dominates him throughout the fight. But in terms of the thing about the size, look, Fulton, has he ever really, from my memory, has he ever really fought that way, kind of utilizing his size or power in that sort of way? I don't think he really capitalizes upon that side of things.
He hasn't knocked anybody out in 4 years.
No, that's what it is. So I don't think Fulton will be looking to unless something changes in the fight, because I think Fulton has that ability and the IQ to adapt in a fight, and he's kind of switched and adapted in fights in the past. The one fight in particular, not where he's adapted or switched, but more where we've kind of seen a lot from him, is that Brandon Figueroa fight where he's had to kind of dog things out and fight and really kind of come through the mire. If those fights were, the old 15-round adage and all that sort of stuff, he might be on the end of an end of a loss on that fight. But there is a lot of dog in Fulton. There is a lot of ability to kind of wear things out with Fulton as well. But I think he'll have to come through those big moments in the fight to really pick up a win. But a points victory, I feel, is out of place for Fulton unless he really kind of skates away with it through the 12 rounds.
Well said, Ames. A few boys have jumped on. Danny Young's here. We'll go to him shortly. Head of the Prediction League, Joe Kennedy's jumped on with us as well. I was going to save this for Rob, but he's not here yet, so obviously we'll get stuck into it. Ames has brought it up. Joe, hand wrap gate. Inoue leaning on some Japanese privilege, they're saying. Rob put up a suspicious video during the week about Inoue apparently bitching about random drug testing around the time of the first fight. Then all of a sudden he's injured and the fight is rescheduled. That was on Fight Hype. Other people have gone in on him about that. How can I subtly put this, Joe? Is Inoue a big cheater?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really put much credence on your man Sean to tell at all, but I think there is some good points being raised. And when you see someone rising through the levels and rising through the weight, and the power carrying as emphatically as it has been, I think it's natural enough to have some questions asked. But I don't know enough about hand wraps or anything like that to really have much of an input there. But I think it doesn't look great from Fulton's team the way it's gone out. I think it looked a little bit pathetic the way it kind of came out in the fighters meeting. It looked a little bit snide and kind of back channeling instead of it was obviously agreed beforehand. These things are not left up to the week of the fight. So I just thought it was probably more of an attempt by Fulton's team to throw a spanner in the works and disrupt fight week for Inoue. But I think it probably backfired a little bit on him.
And what about the fight itself, Joe? I know you've made your feelings known in the Prediction League, and I did a Substack article where I sort of canvassed everybody to see what they were coming up with. I can't quite remember what you said, Joe, so do you want to rerun it for us here? How do you see the fight going?
Yeah, I like Fulton. He's a pretty versatile fighter. I think he could fight at distance, or he can also mix it up on the inside, which people have talked about in the Figueroa fight. And so I think he'll probably fiddle Inoue around a little bit early on, keep mix up the range, fight inside, fight on the outside, and keep Inoue guessing and keep Inoue from finding his range and really planting his feet and putting in those wicked body shots and getting his power shots off. I think it'll just take a little bit of time for Inoue to do that, and I expect him to come on strong in the second half of the fight. So I think it'll be a close win for Inoue after kind of pulling away at the stretch, but I think Fulton will give him lots of issues, especially early on.
Yeah, me too. I think Fulton's definitely present quite a few issues. Yimmy Yappy says, Steve, can you ask Rapping Rob if he raps with his hands? I'll ask him absolutely when he turns up. What kind of time is it going to be for you, Joe, when this comes on? I'm losing track here. When is it going to be? The very early morning for you?
Yeah, it'll probably be about midnight when they're walking to the ring. I have 2 young kids at home, so I'm
No, are you talking New York time?
Yeah, New York time.
No, they're going to be in the ring at 8 a.m. your time, Joe.
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking Spence-Crawford. Yeah, Fulton Inoue will be 8 a.m. Yeah. So I'll be able to catch it with I'll probably have to watch it in my train.
There you go. Joe Kennedy's going to be
Fuck
watching
off,
on this
Colin
train.
sick. Be a hardcore, Joe.
Yeah, might do that.
Good stuff. Joe's on the train. Danny Young's on the hype train as well. You've seen Inoue up close and personal, Danny. Is it going to be another destructive performance similar to when he smashed Rodriguez to pieces against Fulue? They are.
Great fighter.
That was a good job, Dan, wasn't it?
It'd be one hell of a fight if you could combine the two of them, wouldn't it? But yeah.
How's it going to go down?
I don't know, but I got to say on that when I saw him in Glasgow, I think it was the last time I had a hard on. I think it was it was pretty incredible, to be honest with you. Andy will tell you, but yeah, I'll be honest. Like I won't say anything bad about Fulton because obviously Fulton's not a bad fighter, but I think I'm just going with like kind of heart over head on this one a little bit, just purely on the basis of like. I don't know. I suppose I'm romanticizing a little bit over the fact that, you know, if Inoue does this, then like where does he sit? You know what I mean? Like, because I don't know. Like, it's just the style that he fights in and that. And again, I got nothing against Fulton, but I just think like we might see something special from Inoue, or at least I'm hoping we'll see something special from him. And obviously with the Japanese crowd behind him, and I think that Japanese atmosphere has to be factored in this because obviously it's a very for a boxer, and obviously like Fulton, Japanese crowd behind it.
Oh, we've got two Danny Youngs there. Mute yourself, Michael. Do you want to hear yourself twice, Dan?
No, thank you.
Carry on, dude.
No, but yeah, I think the atmosphere needs to be factored in. Obviously, the fights in Japan are very different to those in the States and the UK and all that. There's no screaming and shouting. There's nice polite applause and things like that, and obviously I don't know, I look at it and I think sometimes it must be quite disparaging if you're in the away corner and you're getting some decent digs in and punches and you're not really getting any reaction from a crowd, and then obviously when Inoue, like he did against Butler, was getting those shots away and the crowd were getting excited and doing their clapping and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that might be a factor in this one. That might frustrate Fulton a little bit. But I just think it's going to be a great fight. I think it's going to be very close. And I think Inoue will just nick it for me.
We've lost Michael Thompson, unfortunately. Feel free to jump back on, Michael, whenever you can. Matty, Danny made a good point there about the crowd. I always remember one of the American journalists talking about Tyson against Buster Douglas, which was obviously in Tokyo, and he said that you literally had like one of the biggest sporting upsets of all time unfolding in front of everybody, and the place was like a mausoleum. You know, everyone is dead quiet, polite applause here. Buster Douglas is coming back, creating this sporting moment, and there's like no emotion whatsoever and no noise, basically, compared to what you would get in the USA or Britain or something. So the crowd is an interesting factor there he raised.
Well, it's funny. I think on a lot of like Tyson little documentaries and stuff they've done, Steve, where they say, you know, and like they go to like some journalist or someone, they're like, and the crowd went totally silent. Like, they were silent for a lot of that fight, sir. What's your fucking point? But it'll be interesting because I don't know, you know, the crowd won't necessarily be influencing the judges or anything like that potentially. This is just a truly interesting fight. One of those ones that's we're glad that it gets made, and hopefully it's on the up and up. Boxing has a big week ahead. It'd be nice if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot in some way, shape, or form. But God damn it, they you know, with two chances, I figure they're gonna fuck up one of them. The question is, which one will it be? But you know. When it comes to Inoue, you got to think he started at 108 and he's coming up to 122. Fulton was thinking about vacating and going up to 126 before
Good
this
point.
fight got on the table. So it's very interesting to say that at this point in time, I don't know if Stephen Fulton's size is going to be to help his successes, or if it's going to be to his detriment at this point in time. If he has trouble making the weight, it's going to be rough coming in late because Inoue going to be a few extra pounds. He should be nice and fresh, and if he doesn't get stopped or anything of that nature, groovy rock and roll, and he should be able to get late. And we've seen he definitely has power late in fights. But if he is safely making the weight, he's going to be a huge compared to Inoue on fight night. And, at that weight class, that 10-pound I can't remember if the IBF is one of the belts on the line or not for this one.
No.
I think, no, it's not. So the rehydration clause is not even in effect then. So it doesn't matter really what Fulton comes in at. But I think size could really play it here. And you have to think, Steve, that, we've already seen Fulton in with somebody who could punch and was physically much bigger, much stronger than Inoue. Brandon Figueroa is at featherweight now. We saw him handle Mark Magsayo just fine. He's not gonna end his career at 126 pounds either. He's a big boy. He's going up to 130. So I think that we kind of know what's happening at this point in time when it comes to what Fulton can handle as far as the physicality in a fight that might matter. So for Inoue to win, he's going to have to be accurate. He's going to have to pick his spots, and he's going to have to land very specific shots when they matter. And that's going to be at mid-range, because not only do I think, obviously, with the jab, Fulton, with his height and reach advantage, which is substantial, can control the outside, as we've seen against Figueroa, as we've seen against Angelo Leo. He can potentially control the inside fight too, even as a bigger man. So it's it's a damn interesting fight. I'm leaning for Fulton decision on this one, and it's definitely worth getting up for. It's going to be on at 6 a.m. my time. I'll watch it, be off to work probably about an hour later if it goes to a decision. But I wouldn't be surprised if Inoue somehow lands a big shot late and just randomly out of nowhere too.
It'd be on about 12 or 1 o'clock our time, so it's well worth getting up for.
Oh my God! Yeah. It's by Steve. Like, for those of you who might be waking up from a drunken stupor, it might be a struggle. But most of you guys should catch it on your lunch break, or try to extend that. Come up with some excuse. One last thing, Steve, I wanted to make this. I forgot. Yes. I think it'll be interesting to look at this and see if this is a ceiling for Inoue, in much the way that it was for Nonito Donaire. I see a fairly similar career trajectory between the two, and I'm curious if Inoue is going to be able to surpass what Donaire was able to do. And this was about his limit. Donaire picked up his title at 112 pounds, really couldn't find success at 126, Inoue at 108. Let's see what he can figure out at 122. Donaire's
Can you imagine if he does the business to and ices Fulton early doors? Holy shit!
Good, that's very crazy. And Nonito Donaire's first fight at 122 pounds was against the absolutely massive Jeffrey Matabula, who was 6 foot if he was an inch.
Chase Athletics, shout out to our American correspondent. He says, "Gentlemen, I work for an electric company and I drive really late and usually see Fulton running, but I haven't of late. Maybe he's in Japan. Do you think he stopped running, Matty? Is he going to be all fat?"
No, I think he's in Japan.
He's in Japan. Shout out to Chase Athletics. I haven't seen him for a while. Shout out to Michael Thompson's on the call, head of the Boxing Asylum analytical department. He's a tactical expert. So I'm going to hit him with this question, Michael. So Fulton, he's displayed a lot of adaptability in previous fights. He's shown he can win in the trenches. He's shown he can box on the outside. Matty mentioned Figueroa there, Angelo Leo. Boxed both of them on the inside. He wasn't fazed by Figueroa's power. Stood with him, big unit, took the shots, landed them, went toe-to-toe with a couple of tough swarmers. Against Danny Roman, he dominated from the outside. Roman tried to be aggressive. He was never allowed to settle. Couldn't get much done. Then at the end of the fight, more adaptability from Fulton. He pushed him back, used his speed, his engine, turned the tables on Roman. Which style out of those two, or maybe a mixture of the both, Michael, is he going to adopt against Inoue?
Evening, guys. It's good to be on again. It'll be so interesting. I think the way I see it, as I sort of predicted when you asked for everyone's predictions, I think Inoue will probably stop him late, because I think they're just, Fulton's obviously so technically sound, and I'm sure he's got a game plan for like every conceivable sort of scenario, as Ben Davison would probably say. But I think Inoue's so technically sound as well in his own right that I think just the power will make the difference for me. Like you say, I think Fulton can sort of navigate his way through any sort of fight, but I just think Inoue is going to catch him at some point. And but Matty make a good point. With Donaire moving up and everything. But I think it'd just be the edge. I think Inoue, just the power. I think Fulton might just run out of things to do with him, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to go around and get everybody's predictions. So you're going for Inoue. Are you going the stoppage route or are you going the points route, Michael?
I'm going stoppage, and also just quickly with the hand wrap thing. Just quickly, one in fight week with these fights, there's always a bit of this sort of like gamesmanship going on, isn't there? I'm sure you've seen it over the years. And also, why don't they just wrap Fulton's hands the same? And also, again, Inoue's been icing people outside of Japan anyway, so I don't think it makes any difference how Inoue gets his hands wrapped, as long as he's not going obviously with like plaster cast in there. I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think he's going to smash him out in the later rounds.
So this problem hasn't travelled clearly, but the power has definitely travelled in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There you are. Welling's coming out with a nice concise finish for us there. MB says Fulton on points. Quite a few people going for Fulton. I'm going for Inoue on decision. Joe Kennedy, final prediction?
Steve Wellington classic late decision for Inoue.
Classic late decision. Ames, what about you?
No idea. I'm gonna go with Inoue late, round 9, round 10. Sorry,
Round 9 or round 10? Come on, Ames. Which one
round
is it?
10. Round 10.
Round 10. Des says, I mentioned this in Steve's column over at Substack, shout out. Fulton is strong, although not a puncher. I think he'll last into the championship rounds, and his strength will get Inoue's respect. Yep, can well see that one happening. Matty, final prediction for you, please, for Inoue Fulton.
Fulton majority decision.
Ooh, majority decision. Andrew, final one to you. Are you thinking along those same kind of lines as Matty?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Fulton close enough decision. I think the fans will be right into it if Inoue is successful with some of his shots and he's landing power punches and he's not really getting much back from Fulton. I think they'll be right into it. So if Fulton is able to start pretty well, maybe just keep the crowd out a little bit and just stick to his boxing. I think I could not easily, but I think he could pull off a decision. So generally speaking, you do tend to get pretty fair cards over their famous last words.
Yeah, I kind of wish all the fucking, if they were going to do something about the gloves, that they said it either when the fight was made or bring it up when they're wrapping his hands. I think before that, it's just fucking because the fight will happen and the result will happen, and then the fans will forever argue the result and have conspiracy theories no matter which way it goes now from now. So I kind of wish that hadn't happened. I wish they had handled that differently. However, if they have genuine concerns, there's outlets for them to voice those concerns to. I think Fulton is quite big. So Inoue is going up. We're going to have to see does the power carry up 4 weight divisions. Inoue so far in his career has been flawless. Hard to see a way to beat him, but he is going up in weight, and Fulton is very, very good as well. So I actually think this one might be the chess match that at some stage will catch fire. But I think ultimately Inoue by around 2 rounds in a close fight, about 115, 113.